Welcome to the SAHNA YouTube channel. As you know, the Ukrainian armed forces have severely defeated the Russian army with their pressures in the last days. While Putin's army was settled in the area as he occupied in Ukraine, as a result of the counterattacks of the Ukrainian warriors that broke out in Kherson, Putin had to move troops from Donbass and Kharkiv region to Kherson. These troops shipments by Russia left Donbass and Kharkiv defenseless. This led to all-out attacks on Ukraine. This was exactly what Kiev had planned for a long time. But with the latest move of the Ukrainian armed forces, Russia's huge losses are getting out of hand. You will be surprised that it is recorded that over 50,000 Russian soldiers and over 2,000 Russian tanks were lost in the region. These losses of Putin's are not only very high in quantity but have a serious impact on number in terms of quality. The vast majority of these qualified soldiers come from the special units of the Russian army. Since the Russian army was not prepared for offensive operation in the war in Ukraine, Russian special forces, which took the full load, lost around 1,500 soldiers in the war. According to the data released to the public by Russia, the number of these casualties is over 900. However, it is a known fact that these data of Russia generally incomplete. In fact, the loss of around 1,500 Russian special troops is our optimistic conclusion. The losses of the Russian Spartans and special airborne VDV troops in March only, and the heavy losses suffered by the FSB and elite Russian Marines recently are approaching this number. During the 6 months of the war in Ukraine, the Russian army lost thousands of its soldiers. Estimates of death toll varied widely, but it's not just the total number of casualties that matters, but also exactly who died and what kind of people they are. In reality, my friend, Russia had lost more than 900 outstanding specialists who spent years of effort and millions of dollars to train. We would like to share this data with you in detail. However, we will give you the information beyond the data of this issue between the lines. According to both Western and Russian experts, the combined armed units of the Russian army were not ready for offensive operations. As a result, the tasks usually assigned to the infantry had to be solved by special forces, sailors, and paratroopers. Traditionally considered the elite of the Russian army, these formations made significant losses during the 6 months of the occupation in Ukraine. Dozens of Russian military pilots also died. According to experts, it will be problematic to make up for the loss of all these specialists in Russia. In the general sense of these losses, we can say special forces, marines, and paratroopers because they did the dirty work of the Russian army during the war. The first group we should mention in these losses is the Russian Special Forces' favorite Spetsnaz special units. Spetsnaz is a general name given to Russian Special Forces. It means Special Purpose Unit in Russian Spetsnaz. It was established in October 24, 1950 by the Russian military to perform investigation and special mission in the peace and wartime. Their equipment is far superior to ordinary infantry. In the latest investigations, the deaths of 151 soldiers from the Spetsnaz special units were detected. It is stated that 33 of these soldiers are officers. These figures do not reflect the actual number of casualties but make it possible to at least roughly estimate how many special forces soldiers left the units of the Russian army fighting in Ukraine. Judging by the published arbitraries, the 22nd Guard Special Forces Brigade with the greatest losses during the invasion of at least 30 soldiers of the brigades were killed, including 4 officers. According to the Naval Analysis Center expert Michael Kaufman, for every Russian soldier killed during the war in Ukraine, there are about 3.5 casualties based on these data. can be assumed that at least 130 people could leave the ranks of the 22nd Spetsnaz Special Forces Brigade as a result of death or injury. The exact number of Special Forces unit is classified, but even according to conservative estimate, the elimination of 130 fighters could be equivalent to the complete failure of one of the Special Forces companies. This shows us one of the darkest points of Putin's terrible nightmare. Similar losses during the war in Ukraine were suffered by another unit of the Russian Spetsnaz Special Forces. The 24th Guards Brigade lost at least 21 men, including 4 officers. It is also known that 3rd Guard Special Forces Brigade had 26 dead soldiers, 5 of which were officers. It would not be wrong to say that the loss of Special Forces officers is the most sensitive and difficult situation for the Russian army to replace. In the event that ordinary experts are eliminated, another specialty warrior who comes to replace him can be retained in a few weeks in rare cases, or at least it will take 1 or 2 months. If a SAHNA Special Forces commander dies, only an officer of the same military specialty can take his place. It takes at least 4 years to train a lieutenant with the appropriate qualifications, and to lead a company, a license must gain experience and rise the rank of captain, which will take about 4 more years. This means a commander who is ready as a result of a total 8 years of training. Compensation for the loss of this commander cannot even be compared to a tank or a fighter aircraft lost in the region, because raising people is a much more difficult process than producing weapons. In addition to Spetsnaz Special Forces, the losses of the Russian Guard Special Forces are at least as valuable and irreplaceable losses for the Russian army as Spetsnaz. In peacetime, the security forces of the Russian Guard often specialize in dispersal of demonstration as well as in operations to detain a particular person or small armed groups in various settlements of Russia. Despite this, the National Guard was sent to Ukraine from the first day of occupation. Information was shared about the deaths of 245 Russian National Guard's employees, most of whom were Special Forces employees. Every fourth of these soldiers had the rank of officer. At least 16 dead Russians are the honor of the Maroon Beret, a special badge of distinction. In the Russian Guard, it is believed that those who pass the choice of the right to wear such a beret for the elite of the special forces. Russian Maroon Berets also stand out as Russia's most special forces. This special unit is seen as the unit that Russia has chosen for its most important tasks and that the Russian army leans on. Making up for their loss is a such longer and more difficult task than training the officers of the Spetsnaz Special Forces. We said that Spetsnaz officers have gone through a training process of at least 8 years. Russian Burgundy Berets, on the other hand, go through a very difficult and long training process and prove themselves on the battlefield boards. The 25th Special Forces Detachment from Kazan suffered the greatest loss of personnel. 10 employees, including 2 officers, were killed in Ukraine, judging by the monument on the territory of the unit for 6 months of the war in Ukraine. The detachment lost as many people as during 10 years of the armed conflict in Chechnya. Similar losses were recorded in the departure of Special Forces Mercury from the city of Smolensk. According to open data, a total of 10 Russian Special Guards were killed. The senior organization Burgundy Beret Penza Brotherhood released a video where you can see a memorial corner at the location of the 26th Special Forces Detachment Mercury. On the table are photographs of 18 commandos with black memorial ribbons with 2 carnations next to them. It can be assumed that the confirmed list of casualties of the Russian army may contain at least 40 to 60% fewer names than what is actually buried in Russia. For this reason, the data published by Russia should not be trusted too much. There are also reports of disappearances in the BTS Special Forces, at least 7 dead, including 2 officers. This detachment was the first special unit in the internal troops, so service there is considered particularly prestigious and the training standards of fighters are among the highest. At the same time, about 20 FSB and FSO officers are known who died during the occupation of Ukraine. Most of these casualties are employees of the border troops affiliated with the FSB, but among them there are also the officers of the most secret units. According to Russian Special Services specialist Andrei Soldato, the FSB Special Purpose Center is actively involved in hostilities on the territory of Ukraine, including military operations in the occupied territories, and the losses are examined in detail. The death of FSB Special Forces should be seen as a very serious blow for the Russian army. In particular, it is known that at least 50 more FSB agents were neutralized as a result of the operations carried out by the Ukrainian armed forces in the Donetsk and military regions in the last month. The most crucial and biggest losses were experienced by the Russian paratroopers. These specially trained units make up exactly one-fifth of all Russian soldiers killed during Russia's war in Ukraine. Except for a few troop experiences, Russian infantry formations have not taken an active part in hostilities since the Russo-Georgian War in 2008. The combined armed units of the Russian armed forces were not readied for offensive operations. As a result, the weight of the battle in the first weeks of the war fell on the airborne units. Judging by the open data, the paratroopers of the 331st Regiment of the Air Force from Kostroma were considered one of the strongest units of the Russian army. They have regularly won various interdepartmental competitions. Soldiers and officers of the regiment falls in the operations of the Russian army in the Balkans, in Chechnya, and in 2014 took part in hostilities on the territory of the Donetsk region of Ukraine. The Russian attempt to enter Kiev in early March cost the army of the 331st Russian Airborne Regiment dozens of lives. After the Russian withdrawal, the unit was briefly withdrawn to Belarus. In early April, Kostroma paratroopers took part in the battles of Izium in the Donetsk region, and in May they were transferred to the Luhansk region near the city of Popasnia. Taking into account Russian military personnel whose deaths have not been made public, the actual death toll in the 331st Regiment could reach 150 people. If we add to this the approximate number of wounded, the regiment may have missed 650 to 670 soldiers. This number more than half of the estimated strength of the 335th Regiment at the start of the war. The 247th Guards Regiment of the Air Force from Stavropol also suffered serious losses. During 6 months of the combat in the Ukraine, the paratroopers lost 63 people, including the regimental commander and at least 12 other officers. Much less is known about the casualties of the Air Force's most elite detachment, the 45th Guard Special Forces Brigade, located in Kubinka near Moscow. The deaths of the 14 soldiers of this unit, including one officer of the 45th Guard Special Forces Brigade, was detected. According to open data, the 810th Guard Brigade in an exit Crimea suffered the most casualties. The sailors lost at least 56 people, including the British commander. Another tragic loss of Russia was military pilots. It is an information obtained from open source data that there are 67 Russian military pilots who died during the occupation of Ukraine. This is a special category of casualties because the crew of warplanes and helicopters are the part specialists in the lead of any army in the world. The training of sniper pilot can take 15 to 17 years and cost 12 to 14 million dollars. Experts say that despite the official availability of hundreds of modern and combat-ready multi-role fighters and fighters bombers, the Russian aviation forces were unable to conduct a large-scale offensive air campaign. It is possible that this was due to the loss of leading military pilots in the first months of the war. Russian President Vladimir Putin will not even see these military casualties cannot be recovered. A dictator who is near the end of his life is making young soldiers who have been trained for decades needlessly killed in Ukraine, and he will ruthlessly continue to do so. Ukraine's invincible victory over the Russians will continue forever. Thanks for watching.